Hi there, I'm Andrew Stevenson. I'm a lecturer in philosophy at the University of Southampton, and in this video I'm going to talk about Al-Farabi and the problem of prophecy. So this is a topic that will relate to several aspects of the AQA philosophy A-level syllabus, in particular topics in epistemology and the philosophy of religion, the metaphysics of God. But it's also going to go well beyond the syllabus. Al-Farabi was one of the great Islamic philosophers from around the 10th century AD, so right in the middle of the Islamic Golden Age. As such, he's a little bit outside the standard Western canon, but that's too bad for the standard Western canon. Al-Farabi really is one of the intellectual giants of the Islamic tradition, and therefore he's one of the intellectual giants of history, writing influential works in pretty much all areas of philosophy, as well as in mathematics, the sciences, music and law. So let's dive right in. What's Al-Farabi's overall project in philosophy? Well, as so often with religious philosophers of this period, including other Islamic philosophers, but also Christian philosophers you may have heard of, such as Augustine, Anselm and Aquinas, Al-Farabi was much concerned with the relation between religion and philosophy. He wanted to reconcile religion with philosophy, and in particular, reason with revelation. Now, the general idea that there's some kind of tension between reason and faith is one that is still very much with us today. But I want to talk about a more specific issue that Al-Farabi picks up from his predecessor, al-Kindi, the so-called father of Arabic philosophy. Al-Kindi, too, had wanted to reconcile religion with philosophy. In particular, he had defended the view that reason and revelation were just two different ways at getting at the same truth. For instance, we might learn that the universe had a single all-powerful creator through reason, by providing philosophical arguments such as the ontological or cosmological arguments. Or we might just read the Quran, or the Bible, or the Torah, or whatever. The point is the two methods aren't in tension. They run in parallel towards the same goal, according to al-Kindi. But Al-Farabi didn't buy this. He was worried that it would mean that we don't really need religious faith or revelation. If we can reason our way to the truths of the Quran, then it would seem that the Quran itself, as a revelation from Allah to the final prophet Muhammad, is not really strictly necessary. At best, it would seem to provide us with a quick and easy way to get to the truth, without the need for constructing difficult philosophical arguments. It would be a kind of cheat sheet for those who couldn't be bothered to use their reason. But that can't be right. In more technical terms, then, Al-Farabi felt he needed to account for the unique epistemic role of revelation and religion. Why do we need them in our pursuit of knowledge? Okay, so let's look at this in a little bit more detail. Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi's predecessor, had espoused a particularly demanding form of rationalism or evidentialism. He held that for all subjects and all propositions, a subject S is justified or rational in believing a proposition P, just in case they have good direct evidence for the proposition. So in particular then, Al-Kindi didn't think that a really good justified belief could ever come from testimony alone. We're not allowed to believe things merely on the basis of what we're told. We have to work things out for ourselves, ideally using our reason, or perhaps God has to reveal things to us directly. But Al-Farabi wanted to weaken this view in a crucial way. In a nutshell, he thinks it's fine as a rule for a certain kind of epistemically rational ideal agent, or for the religiously ideal agent, but that it couldn't be right for all, or indeed most of us. It couldn't be right for the normal, everyday layperson, who has neither perfect reason nor receives direct revelation for God. So he suggests that the rule only holds for some subjects, and in particular it doesn't hold for the laypersons. Laypersons, normal everyday folk, are allowed to believe on the basis of testimony alone. Those who don't have perfect reason and don't receive revelation are allowed to believe on the basis of testimony. The result can be good, justified beliefs. And of course, what he has in mind here is the testimony of the prophet, the one who receives revelation from God. So it's here that the revelation finds its unique epistemic role for Al-Farabi, to enable the prophet to educate the layperson in the truths that are revealed to them, truths which a layperson might otherwise not be able to discover through using their own reason or receiving their own revelation. But there's a problem here, the prophecy problem. In a nutshell, how can we verify the truth of prophecy without working out the relevant truth for ourselves? But that would make the prophecy pointless. Or indeed, faced with two competing supposed prophets, how can the layperson work out which one to follow, without working out the relevant truths for themselves, which would again seem to make the original prophecy pointless, or at least unnecessary? We'll drill down into this problem in more detail in a moment, but let's recap. What we need to account for is the unique epistemic role of revelation and religion. For Al-Farabi, this lies in the role of the prophet in educating the layperson. But to be educated in this way, to follow this path to truth and knowledge, the layperson, everyday folk like you and me, has to recognize the prophet as a prophet. And when there seem to be competing prophets vying for their attention, they need to ensure that they follow the correct one. And this can seem to require that the layperson would have to work out the truths for themselves, which would make the prophecy pointless. Again, prophecy, revelation, wouldn't have a unique epistemic role. Now, there's a close analogy here between the problem of prophecy and a contemporary problem, the problem of expertise. Despite some politicians wanting to convince us otherwise, expertise is incredibly important for our epistemic lives, and we often believe important things on the basis of expert testimony. Think of climate change, right? The big issue of our age, at least one of them. I believe what the experts in climate change tell me. And it seems good and right that I believe what they tell me. But where does my faith in the experts come from? Now, one way to verify the truth of what the experts say would be to become an expert in climate science myself. But that would mean I no longer need the testimony of the experts. And relatedly, how do I tell the difference between a genuine expert in climate science and some wild conspiracy theorist on the internet? Again, I could settle the issue by becoming an expert myself, by learning all the science and understanding the data. But that would mean I no longer need the testimony of experts. I would be an expert. So the issue is, the expertise of others seems necessary for all of us. But how can we be justified in relying on it? If we want to give expertise a crucial, unique epistemic role, and for that matter, if we wanted to give prophecy a unique, crucial epistemic role, then we need an account of how and when the layperson, people like you and me, as lay people, can rightfully make use of and appeal to expertise and the authority of prophecy. So, here's a contemporary solution to that contemporary problem of expertise. Remember, you've got the novice expert problem. How can we ascertain whether expert claims are true, and thus whether we should believe the testimony of experts without ourselves becoming experts? And then there's also the novice to expert problem. Given two conflicting expert testimonies, or apparently expert testimonies, how do we work out which one to favour? Again, we could become experts, but then we wouldn't need the testimony. So the philosopher Goldman suggests that the following solution to the expert problem. First, we distinguish between esoteric and exoteric claims. Esoteric claims are those that are not understandable to the layperson, while exoteric claims are claims that are understandable to the layperson. Okay? Esoteric, expert knowledge that we lay people can't understand. Exoteric, claims that everyone can understand. That's the first step, to distinguish those two things. And then second, we recognize that, of course, the layperson must somehow base their decision of whether an expert is reliable or of which expert to trust on the expert's exoteric claims, the claims that we can understand. Think of public speeches or news reports rather than scientific journal articles involving lots of maths and technical jargon. Now, what Goldman suggests, and this is the third point on the slide, more persuasive exoteric claims are likely to mean better esoteric claims, better expertise. So the layperson should simply follow the most convincing expert. This would be an inference of what in philosophy we call inference to the best explanation, or IBE. The layperson reasons that some supposed expert's convincingness is best explained by their actual expertise. They seem to the layperson to know what they're talking about, because they do know what they're talking about. And that's Goldman's solution to the problem of expertise. It's nice and neat in a way, it's very simple. But there's a problem here. Is point 3 true? Is it true that the best experts, those with the most in-depth and comprehensive esoteric knowledge, will also be the most convincing proponents of their claims? Can't genuine experts be boring and unconvincing? After all, we probably all know teachers who probably know a lot about their subjects, but somehow fail to teach us very well, right? And on the other hand, can't charlatans be exciting and convincing? That's why so many people believe in pseudoscience or deny the reality of human-driven climate change. It's why some people still think the Earth is flat. So genuine experts can be unconvincing, and charlatans can be convincing. It looks like the connection between genuine expertise and being able to convince the public isn't tight enough to solve this problem. And this is where Al-Farabi comes in. For Al-Farabi, the true prophet has not just knowledge. Let's retrack. Goldman's problem was how to ensure that quality of rhetoric tracks quality of expertise, and it's not clear that his answers were entirely convincing. Okay? So for Al-Farabi, the true prophet has not just knowledge and understanding, but perfect God-given knowledge and perfect God-given understanding. They don't just know and understand the truth about the world, they know and understand the layperson perfectly. And they have other God-given capacities too, like a rich imagination and a capacity for empathy and storytelling. And for Al-Farabi, all these God-given capacities and perfect knowledge and understanding is what ensures that the true prophet's testimony, their prophecy, will be the most convincing. It will speak to people and move them. So that's Al-Farabi's Islamic epistemology. The unique epistemic role of religion and revelation is to enable the prophet to educate the layperson to truths that they otherwise wouldn't be able to understand or discover for themselves. And this is possible because the true prophet receives perfect and complete knowledge and understanding through God-given revelation. And this ensures that their prophecy will be the most convincing, the one that people who are thinking clearly and trying to be careful will choose to follow. The true prophet, by gift of God, will be the perfect rhetorician, according to Al-Farabi. Okay? And that's his solution to the prophecy problem, the problem of expertise. The everyday lay person can allow themselves to be swayed by the most convincing expert, or in this case, prophet, because that prophet is most convincing, because they've received revelation, perfect knowledge, perfect understanding from God. So, that's all for now. I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about Al-Farabi, one of the great Islamic philosophers of the Islamic Golden Age. Be sure to check out the information below this video for study questions and suggested reading. And don't forget to look at other videos in the series where other philosophers at the University of Southampton, like me, are covering the whole AQA A-level philosophy syllabus and more. Bye for now.